Welcome back, Chaos Crew. I'm your host, Jamie, and today we're talking all about my journey to becoming a mom. So grab your coffee, get cozy, snuggle up. We're going to have some more caffeinated combos. And here with me today, we have my first baby. She's appeared in a couple other episodes, and if you've ever followed me online, you know who Lilo is. You might hear her snoring. She is the biggest snuggle bug ever. So I was absolutely a dog mom before I was ever a human mom or mom to a human baby. But I wanted to talk about just everything from pregnancy to now having an almost toddler, which is crazy. For anyone who does not know, I have a son. His name is Oliver. He is literally just like the light of my life. There's no other way to put it. He's actually at school right now, his little like school slash daycare. We have him in a little Montessori school, which is really cute. But because of that, I don't keep my phone on Do Not Disturb. So if you hear my phone ping at any point in time, apologies, but I need to be reached even while I'm here filming and chatting with all of you. But yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, did not know if I wanted to become a mom right up until the point that I got pregnant almost. I'm gonna like rewind a little bit. And obviously, we're talking about pregnancy, we're talking about becoming a mom. If this topic is especially triggering to you anyway, just be mindful of your own energy watching this episode, or feel free to like tune out as needed if you need to. But like, growing up, I had always wanted to be a mom. I always thought I was going to be a mom. But I'll be honest, the thought of it was really scary, specifically because since I was 14 and diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, I was pretty much told by every doctor I had ever seen, be prepared, you're probably going to struggle to get pregnant someday. It's one of the leading causes of infertility. You might never have, a baby like naturally. And that was always, always, always in the back of my head. And it was definitely something that scared me. And one of the reasons I had weight loss surgery was to improve my PCOS and to hopefully be able to conceive naturally. And even though I was nowhere near ready for that, when I had my surgery, I was 24 and I did not become a mom until 31. Yeah, because I'm 32. But it was just not it was something that I was prepared to struggle with and was so afraid to admit, like, okay, I want to be a mom and start trying, that like I put it off for a little bit, I will say, because after weight loss surgery, yes, I had weight loss surgery so that I could get healthy. I obviously just wanted to lose weight and eventually start a family. At the time, I was dating my now husband. So again, it wasn't on our radar at that point in time. But as my journey moved along, as I lost weight, some regain, lost weight again, had all my plastic surgeries, I was like, I don't know if I want to have kids. And that wasn't just because of the weight loss and fear of gaining weight back. Like, yes, that was there. And I like wasn't ready to give that up. But I genuinely got to a point where I just absolutely loved my life in the years leading up to having a baby, especially like year 2022 into 2023, I was losing the reading. I was feeling really good. My sleep dietitian business was thriving. I love the work that I do. I was able to freely travel. I went on a handful of trips. We did our Tribe on Tour series, which was like in-person weight loss surgery meetups. I went to ASMBS. Which is the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery conference. I did a business retreat with the mindset coach that I work with in Mexico. It was amazing. Like, I was here, there, and everywhere. I was really in a good headspace. I was working out a ton. I was at CrossFit like 5 days a week. I was the leanest and strongest I'd ever been. And I wasn't on like a timeline by any means, but me and my husband were deciding, do we want to have kids? When do we want to have kids? He always wanted to have kids, but he totally left the ball in my court for if and when I was ready. And I really appreciate that, because at the time I just like wasn't sure if that's what I wanted, even though that was always something I thought I wanted. I wasn't ready to like give up my freedom or my life. And I was very aware of the fact that when you have a baby, that's what happens. So I was like, you know what? If and when, if and when. And I had kind of felt like, maybe I could be happy for the rest of my life without kids. Like, I would be fine with that. And I genuinely felt that way. But there still was that like fear of like, I don't want to actually acknowledge that I want kids if I do. Again, all right, Chaos Crew, you already know how much I talk about being a new mom and juggling not only that aspect of my life, but my post op health and life after surgery. And I honestly can't even tell you how many times Hungry Root has saved me in this season of life. They are the most incredible grocery delivery service where I know that when I use their groceries, I'm getting really healthy, high protein, easy to use ingredients sent right to my door. And honestly, now that Oliver is eating real food now too, it's just they've grown so much with me and my family. I started using them when I was just 1 month postpartum and has absolutely been a game changer. Whether I am using the ingredients they send me from scratch to create one of their amazing meals with one of their recipes, or I'm just grabbing one of their ready made options, I always have something for dinner ready to go for me and my family. And for right now, they are offering Proffy and Chaos listeners 40% off your first order when you use the code CHAOS at checkout. So don't forget, you can head to the link in the show notes. You can grab your first grocery order, which, like, hello, 40% off of groceries. Amazing. Make sure you go and do that. Use the link, use the code so they know that I sent you. I wasn't sure, but in the back of my head, I was like, I don't want to also like lean into this and be like, okay, I want kids and then not be able to have them or have to go through that hardship. I was like, I've been through so many hardships. I don't necessarily want to put another one on if I don't need to. Especially because I was so happy and content. I'm like, okay, I don't want to like ruin this happiness. And then it was August of 2023, my nephew was born. And oh my God, the way this little guy changed my life, changed all of our family's lives. My younger sister had her baby, and it was just like, I was obsessed with him. I was like, auntie of the year. Like, I'm going to be the cool, fun, pink haired aunt. Like, I was over there all the time. And it definitely, I felt like I could have just been like the greatest aunt ever and totally just loved him for the rest of my life, which obviously I still will and do. But even at that point in time, I didn't feel like, oh my God, I need one. It wasn't like, oh my God, I need to have a baby too. I was like, I almost felt like he kind of was my baby. Me and my sister are very close, and I just spent a lot of time there. I babysat him every Friday while she went to work. So I was very happy with that. And then I remember there was one night I came home from actually babysitting him. And one of the couples that me and my husband are really good friends with and my friend Alana, her and I have been like super close for years. Our husbands went to high school together, like, and I've been with my husband. We got married in 2020, but we were dating since 2013. So I'd always known her because she was always dating her now husband at the same time. So we'd like bonded a lot over the years. And it's funny because her and I used to joke like when we'd like see like moms with kids or, the whole like kid thing, we'd be like, oh, glad it's not us. Like, nope, nope. We would just like joke like kids. So when she came over that night and they told us that she was pregnant, I was so happy for her, but also shocked because like a couple other friends had kids that year. I was like, okay, like everyone's starting to have kids, but I don't know why, it wasn't until she told me that she was pregnant that I, for the first time ever, had a twinge of not jealousy, but a feeling of, I wish that was me. And that's when I was like, oh, shit, here we go. Here we go. Because when my sister was pregnant, my neighbor and one of my other closest friends was pregnant, some other people in my life, never once did I ever feel like, oh, I wish that was me. I was like, you stay away. I'm not drinking the water. Like, I don't want that. I just like wasn't ready. So once she had or told us that she was pregnant, I was like, okay, this is the first time I've ever felt this way. So we decided, okay, let's start trying. And I'm incredibly, incredibly fortunate that we did not struggle to get pregnant. And I know that's not the case for so many people, but we got pregnant pretty quickly. I ended up going off my GLP-1. I was off of it like, I think like 5 or 6 weeks when I got pregnant. I had titrated down anyways, just because I was getting towards the lowest dose and I knew I was going to come off of it and eventually start trying. And the reason I put that in there is so many people ask that part. They're like, were you on your GLP-1 when you got pregnant? No, I had already been off of it. I had already titrated down, and the recommendations are that you not be on it while you are pregnant. But I definitely I was under the impression, based on everything that everyone had told me my whole life of struggling. I'm like, okay, we're going to start trying. It's going to take like 6 months, a year, 2 years. Like, I didn't know what to expect. So when I got pregnant relatively quickly, I'll be honest, my whole world changed so fast. I was not prepared. I was mentally prepared, or as prepared as you could be, for knowing that changes will come when you have a baby and a physical baby you bring home with you. I was not prepared for the changes of pregnancy. I knew some people didn't love it. I knew you could have like morning sickness and not feel like yourself. But for me, unfortunately, pregnancy was one of the worst experiences of my life. Many of you followed me on social media during this time. To be honest, I was hardly on social media because I just couldn't. So when I got pregnant, and I found out very early, I found out honestly, like right before I missed my period, right around like the 4.5 week mark. And then it was right about 5 weeks I started getting sick, which at first I was actually really, this is gonna sound weird, I was actually really happy. I'm like, okay, I'm nauseous. This means my hormones are rising. Like, this is a good sign. I went from just having mild nausea to violently ill so fast. So I found out I was pregnant like days before Halloween of 2023. And at that time, like I said, I was babysitting my nephew. I really wanted to tell my family I was pregnant on Christmas because that would have brought me to like the 12, 13 week mark. I told my sister right before Thanksgiving, and I told the rest of my family on Thanksgiving. And the reason I had to tell them early is I was so sick. I couldn't babysit my nephew anymore. I went from just being nauseous to being, like I said, violently ill, nausea, vomiting 8, 9, 10 times a day. It was awful. It was so, so bad. And I just kept holding out, going, okay, gotta get through the first trimester. Everyone says the first trimester is rough. This, like, I remember saying, like, okay, like morning sickness, my ass. Like, this is all day, all night sickness. I would wake up in the middle of the night sick. I was really struggling, really, really struggling. And then, long story short, it just never went away. And this is not because of weight loss surgery. I've had so many women come to me during my pregnancy, after, other people who have gotten pregnant, after weight loss surgery, like wanting to have like my advice and my experience and like sharing. There's such limited resources for women who are post-op who are pregnant, that I completely understand and really value the fact that people were coming to me going like, hey, like, can you share more? Can you help me know what to eat while pregnant? And I am not even exaggerating a little bit when I say I have literally tried every single protein powder out there since I had my surgery 8 years ago. And for the first time, I am actually being super consistent with drinking my protein shake every single morning. And that's because First Form has been a game changer for me. It is the first protein powder that I actually enjoy drinking every day. I personally love their caramel latte level 1 flavor protein powder. It is incredible. It tastes so good. It is smooth, creamy, and only has the highest quality ingredients. It is not made with any fillers. It is just an epic product specifically for bariatric patients, and it's been a total game changer for me. And you guys know that this podcast is called Profie and Chaos for a reason. I'm always grabbing my Profie and running out the door, and First Form makes it possible for me to still live this chaotic life and hit my needs. So make sure you check out the links below, that you check out all of First Form's products. Again, level 1 is my favorite. Also in the show notes below, you can get my favorite Profie recipe using First Form. To this day, I still I'm so traumatized by my pregnancy that I don't want to think about it at all. But whenever people have come to me and they're like, I'd love your advice. Like, I just got pregnant. Like, what did you do? I'm like, don't even ask me, because all I did was vomit the entire time. And that's not even an exaggeration. So I think it was by like 23-ish weeks, 24 weeks pregnant, I was like, this is just not good. It was around that time we had managed it though. So around the 22-ish week mark, and don't nobody quote me on this, I don't know exactly, but it was around that time, I believe, my OB had put me on medication. She had given me Zofran and a couple other things beforehand, but by this time we had like a regimen under control. So I was on Zofran, Diclegis, which is like a anti-nausea med that you take at nighttime when you're pregnant. I was on Reglan. I believe it was Reglan. I was on a prescription antacid because the acid reflux was also so bad that was making me vomit. I was just on these medications round the clock, timed out exactly, and it sucked. And the medication stopped the vomiting, or at least the daily vomiting. It did not stop the nausea. So I was nauseous all the time up until I had him. And like I said, I went from being this free bird who was doing her thing, living life, healthy as healthy could be, anticipating to have, a pregnancy, who knows what's to come. But like immediately my autonomy was 100% taken away. And that is true when you're pregnant in general, but it was so hard because I had friends who were pregnant at the same time, or those around me, and they were okay and they were happy and they were glowing and they were still going to the gym. And I was so upset about that because I had this like vision in my head. I'm like, I'm going to be that cutie pregnant girlie with her baby bump waddling around the gym with her weights. Like, I was so into my CrossFit routine when I got pregnant that I I was like, I want to try and maintain my health as much as I can. And as long as you're exercising before you get pregnant, it's okay generally for healthy pregnancies to maintain their level of activity. Like I was really like, I'm going to eat all the healthy foods. Like I had this vision of what my pregnancy would be. And it was nothing like that. I could not get out of bed. I couldn't lift my head off the pillow sometimes. The only way I can describe it to people is it felt like a stomach bug that lasted 9 months. And it was awful. Last year, when I was not pregnant, around Christmas time, I actually got norovirus, like, which norovirus, if you've ever had it, is awful, 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 awful. And I remember being sick to my stomach with norovirus and panicking, like crying, panicking, because I was like, shit, I'm pregnant, because that's what pregnancy felt like for me. And even on the days where I wasn't actively vomiting, I was so nauseous. The only other way to describe it is it felt like a really, really bad hangover, or like, when you're sick with a stomach bug and the next like 2, 3 days after, you might not be like actively sick, but you still are like, ooh, about food. Everything makes you feel awful. That's how I felt my whole pregnancy. And I was diagnosed with, this is a mild form of hyperemesis gravidarum. Hyperemesis gravidarum is not morning sickness, and I cannot stress that enough. I have talked about this a lot on my social medias because it's such a like unknown condition and it gets such little recognition. But from my understanding, only 3% of pregnancies are hyperemesis gravidarum pregnancies. It's not common. Again, not correlated with my weight loss surgery at all. Because I've had people say, like, did you get this because of your weight loss surgery? No. But it basically what it means is excessive nausea and vomiting your whole pregnancy. Now, the reason mine was considered mild is because I usually you end up with like significant weight loss. Some people end up in like multi-organ failure. Some people end up on like tube feeds. That did not happen for me. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I'm pretty sure, I don't know how much weight I lost initially. And the reason I don't know is I chose going into this pregnancy to have blind weigh-ins for my own mental health, which if you were pregnant after weight loss surgery, it might be a good idea if you're like me and maybe triggered by the scale. Because I just didn't want to see it. But at one of my appointments, I want to say I was probably around like 16, 18 week mark, maybe 16, maybe 20, depending on like when the appointment was. But I did my blind weigh-in with the nurse, and then my doctor came in, and without even like asking me how I was feeling or how things were going, my doctor, who I loved and was amazing, she looks at me, she's like, I know it's hard, but I need you to eat more. She's like, I don't care what it is, you got to get more calories in. Putting two and two together, that again, I haven't gone back and looked at the records because it's just like triggering to look out, but I'm pretty sure I was like losing weight at that point and nobody knew I was pregnant. Like I definitely didn't like look pregnant. So I'm pretty sure I had lost a decent amount, which is why it put me in that hyperemesis category. But the only things, and this is why when people come to me, they're like, Jamie, what did you do during your pregnancy to like eat healthy and stay on track? I'm like, I didn't. I was just surviving. The only thing that ever made me feel better, and now thinking about it makes me like gag, but the only thing that made me feel better or like slightly okay was full sugar Coke. I was never a soda drinker even before weight loss surgery. Like that was just never my thing. But I guess pretty universally, women with hyperemesis tend to tolerate like full sugar Coke, like soda. I was in a support group for women on Facebook with it, and that seemed to be like a common thing, which is funny because even like ginger ale did not work for me. I threw up ginger ale. I threw up crackers. I threw up plain toast. Literally threw up everything. So this full sugar soda, and then for whatever reason, I was able to eat Cliff Bars. If you guys have ever had a Cliff Bar, it's not really a protein bar. It's more like an energy bar. They're pretty calorically dense. So I remember one day even telling my sister, I was like, yeah, the only thing I've had today is soda and like 8 Cliff Bars. So towards the end of my pregnancy and throughout the second half, I was definitely gaining weight. From a lot of it was fluid. I ended up with preeclampsia as well. So a lot of retention there. So despite being so sick, despite eating like, obviously I was getting a lot of calories in, but I was not eating good by any means. I gained 72 pounds from the start of my pregnancy to the day I delivered. Honestly, I was so sick. I like didn't even care. I was a shell of myself. That is how the people around me described me during that time, because I've had like bouts of depression in the past. I have anxiety, all the things. I've never experienced clinical depression like during this time, which is so sucky because they say you're supposed to be like happy and glowing, and there's so much pressure for women while they're pregnant. And everyone will say things like, well, at least you're pregnant, or like, but you get a cute baby at the end. I heard that so many times. And in the moment, I can't even tell you how invalidating that is. So I also got diagnosed, in addition with the hyperemesis, I got diagnosed with prenatal depression, which I didn't know was a thing. But I guess it's basically the same thing as not the same thing, but very similar to postpartum depression, but while you're pregnant. And so many women with hyperemesis end up with it because how could you not be depressed when you are that sick every day? Like it's actually like unimaginable when you think about that for that long of time. One of the biggest things I talk to my clients about is the fact that surgery, as much as it is physical, is also super mental and emotional. We can have our stomachs removed, bypassed, whatever, but we cannot bypass or remove the parts of our head that need work. And this is why I am constantly referring people to find a bariatric therapist. This is an incredible, incredible platform created by my friend and colleague, Ashlyn Douglas Barnes. She is a licensed bariatric therapist. She had weight loss surgery herself. And it is so incredible what she has put together. It is a free directory. It costs you literally nothing. And you can find licensed bariatric specific therapists licensed in your state. So make sure you check it out. As a dietitian, I help you with the food, but we always need to be incorporating the interdisciplinary team so that you get the well-rounded support you need. Check it out below and let us know your thoughts. I had no motivation. I didn't want to do anything. I couldn't get out of bed most days. It was horrible. There's no way to put it other than it was horrible. And towards the end, I started to not feel better necessarily, but the last handful of weeks, it was like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, okay, we can make it. We can do this. I did end up with high blood pressure, which I've never had high blood pressure, even when I was at my heaviest. I also saw like a research article not that long ago about the correlation that they're finding between hyperemesis and preeclampsia. So I did ultimately end up with preeclampsia. Before that, I was hospitalized. I want to say 4 or 5 times I was sent to labor and delivery between the high blood pressure and dehydration from the vomiting. So that was definitely a thing I was dealing with. So that was scary and overwhelming. But at 36 weeks, I officially got diagnosed with preeclampsia and I had a scheduled C-section 36 weeks to the day. And I remember feeling guilty that I was so relieved that they were taking him out because I knew he was early and little, and I felt really guilty about that, but I was never so happy to not be pregnant. He, like I said, 36 weeks to the day, so he was technically full term, but because it was to the day, he wasn't too small. He came at 6 pounds 8 ounces, so he was a good size for a month early. But he was in the NICU for a week, and that was really sucky. Even during my C-section, like laying down flat on my back on that table awake, I was vomiting during the C-section. So when I tell you it sucked up until the end, it sucked up until the end. But what I will say is, despite the NICU stay, because that was really, really hard, I had the greatest postpartum, which is not everyone's experience. Honestly, like I said, I didn't care at this point that I was 72 pounds heavier. I was so happy to not be pregnant. I remember waking up the next day in my hospital bed and feeling my belly. I was like, he's not there. I'm not pregnant. Oh my God, I'm not pregnant. And then honestly, the nausea and vomiting went away immediately. That morning, I was like, somebody get me a coffee, somebody get me an egg sandwich. I was like, oh my God, I can eat food and not, or think about food and not gag. So that was a huge relief because I was convinced it was never going to go away. My life was just going to like be this dark hole. So for me anyways, postpartum, as hard as that was for so many reasons, was such an upgrade, such an upgrade. I didn't care how tired I was. I didn't care how sore I was from the C-section, which by the way, for me anyways, it was planned. It was a planned C-section for other like medical history things, but C-section was easy for me. I've had so many surgeries between weight loss surgery and plastics. C-section was nothing, but like all of it, I was just so glad to not be pregnant anymore. And again, that's not meant to sound insensitive to anyone who is not able to get pregnant or hasn't been able to. I'm very much aware of how fortunate I was, but it doesn't minimize how truly awful my experience was. So I share that openly because I know there are people listening to this who feel so alone and isolated because pregnancy is an isolating experience anyways. It's everything changes. Nobody tells you like what it's really like. Sometimes like you get random symptoms that you're like, wait, that's pregnancy related. Every TV show I've ever watched, you just see this cute pregnant girl with a belly who's craving food and eating a lot. And it's like, cool, I wish that was the case for me. I joke all the time. I'm like, I gained over 70 pounds and I didn't even have anything good to eat. Like, but I went on during our pregnancy, I was determined to go on our baby moon. Um, I had planned this right at the beginning of my pregnancy before I realized that the morning sickness, quote, morning sickness wasn't going to go away. Um, so we went to Disney, my happiest place on earth. I am Disney adult through and through. And I had moments of like happiness, but overall it was so sad to be that sick and depressed still in Disney. Like it didn't help anything, obviously, and walking around the parks certainly didn't help. I actually threw up in one of the Disney restaurants. I was 6 months pregnant, trying to run out and find a bathroom and didn't make it in time. So love that for me. But anyways, I remember one day postpartum, laying there in bed. Oliver was in his bassinet sleeping. He was like, oh, I don't know, 2 weeks old. I was in bed. I was watching the new season of Bridgerton had come out. I had like a fresh shower. I had fresh PJs on, and I was eating Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And I remember thinking, this is the life. I was like, why do people not like postpartum? Obviously, I understand people have their own very awful experiences as well that are totally valid. But it was such an upgrade for me. And if there's one thing that I think has really put into perspective for me is how grateful I am for the day-to-day life and the mundane and the like, even the hard days. Like, I still have days where I'm like exhausted because Oliver was up all night, or I'm overwhelmed and all I can think is, thank God I'm not pregnant. But that's not to say that this transition in itself has been easy. I think it's funny. I joke all the time. I'm like, what the hell was I doing with my time when I used to say I was busy? Also, not to make anyone feel bad who doesn't have kids who's like, oh my God, I'm busy. Like, yes, you're busy. Yes, you're tired. But the level of busyness and tiredness that you experience as a mom, especially a new first time mom, is next level. I didn't know it was possible to do so much in a day. Multitasking has gone through the roof, and it's been interesting just like finding my identity now. Before my weight loss surgery journey, my business, all of that was the main focus of my life. And that's not to say those things still aren't important. They are, but it's no longer the main focus of my life. And part of that is freeing, but also confusing because I honestly am a workaholic. I love the work that I do. I'm super creative. I'm always building or inventing something for like my business. But while that used to give me like the most like fulfillment, it doesn't in the same way. It's still, I love what I do, but my job and my role as a dietitian went from being my life and my identity to being my business or being work. And that's been weird to like cope with in itself because now I'm at a point where I'm trying to find more space in my life. And that's really hard when it's chaotic, or again, I still am impulsive, or I still do want to do things like this podcast, but there's only so much time in a day. And I refuse to have my nose in a phone all day long when my baby deserves and needs my attention. And I don't want to miss out on those moments. So I'm so fortunate that I work for myself and I'm home. And up until he started his little school recently, I've been able to be home with him. But my God, has it been challenging to run a business and be full-time mom, default main caregiver. My husband is incredible, incredibly active, but he works a traditional job outside of the house. So much of that falls on me. And because what I do is so flexible, if he's sick, if something comes up, I'm the one who has to rearrange things, which is fine. But it's been really eye-opening to see like how I spend my time now and how I want to spend my time now. But the other thing is, I think is so important to talk about. So many people, myself included, have this fear of when you get pregnant, gaining the weight back. And it's hard. It is hard. There's a reason I did blind weigh-ins. But I will say, and this could just be my experience. I know other people feel different and have different experiences. But for me, I don't care nearly as much about my body or my weight anymore. And I never thought I'd get to that point. A lot of this has come with like mindset work and other things I've done over the years, which I'm sure I'll talk more about in other episodes, but it's just not the most important thing. And I refuse to be angry at my body when it's healthy, when it gave me my son. It did all these incredible things. So what if I have some more stretch marks? So what if I'm not at my lowest? It's just not the same level of importance. And I can't even tell you how freeing that has been because I just never thought I'd get here. The other thing is like, I am steadily losing weight. I'm following my own methods that I use with my bariatric breakthrough method, the same things I teach my clients. I have This is the first time I've ever lost weight in my life and not really hyper focused on it. 'Cause like I said, kind of like don't care. Like I don't know how else to say it without that sounding bad, but I want to lose weight. And if I lose weight, great. But I am so busy and focused on other things that that just has taken a back burner. So most of the time, it is chaotic around here. I'm taking care of him, making sure he's fed. I'm just doing the best I can most days. I don't have the bandwidth to hyper focus or, fixate on what the scale said this morning. I just don't. And I also refuse my life on hold and not be the fullest version of myself for my son. Because what kind of example does that set?
One of the things I can say I am most proud of since starting my journey is creating the support for others that I never had. I remember thinking, oh my God, I am a dietitian and I am struggling on this journey with not just what to do, but how to do it to be successful and actually live my life, which is why I created my tribe membership back in 2020. It is the most incredible resource that I offer and the best starting point if you're looking for more support or some of my more nutrition services. It's an acronym and it stands for the Real Insights of Bariatric Eating, and it has so much support in there, not just from myself, but from other credentialed experts. We have therapists, we have a doctor of physical therapy, we have a nurse. We have so many people in there to support you along the way. So if you are interested in more nutrition support and more support in hitting your goals on your journey, that is a great place to start. You can check out the link below and use the code CHAOSCREW20 for 20% off your first month. And there's no minimum commitment. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. But I will say you probably won't want to because we do some epic things in there.
So I think also because I was just so grateful to not be pregnant and to like not be, essentially to not be sick, that I was like, I don't care. I don't care what size my jeans are. And for reference, I was in a size 2, size 4 jeans when I got pregnant. After I had him, like 2 months later, I was like, okay, I need some clothes. So I went and bought myself new jeans. I bought a size 16. I was like, well, this is humbling. But I remember coming on my stories on Instagram and saying, you know what though? Like I deserve to have jeans that fit. I deserve to feel good in my jeans as we go do fun things together. Like I also made a promise and commitment to myself that I was not going to hide from photos because of my postpartum body. And I am so glad I did it because I'm so like I get so happy when I look back at those pictures from those first few months together. And I'm in a much larger body in those photos than I am even now. And I don't care because it's me happy with my baby and we have those photos together. So take the photos and remind yourself like you don't have to hide just because your body's bigger. And even if you're listening to this and you're not pregnant or you don't have a, postpartum experience like I had, it's okay if your body is bigger. It is. It doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And what I was saying is and this is the first time in my life I think I haven't like rushed to lose the weight. Like when I had struggled with the regain a couple of years post-op, I was like in such a rush to get it off. And I was like, I'm so uncomfortable. I just want to get this off. I gave myself a lot of space and grace. You know what's funny? At Oliver's 1 year birthday party, I did get on the scale. Not at the party, but like the day of his party, which was the same day as his birthday, I got on the scale and I was exactly 52 pounds down, which means I had a really healthy postpartum weight loss. It means I was steadily losing 1 pound per week. It didn't reflect on the scale that way. My body's always like lost 3 pounds, stayed stagnant for 4 weeks, like lose 4 pounds, go back up one. So like the average was there. And I've continued as of today. I'm filming this in October. And as of today, I am 9 pounds away from my pre pregnancy weight, which is really interesting because I even said, like, I don't care if I get back to my pre pregnancy weight. I will also say my pre pregnancy weight was not my lowest. I gained 7 pounds before having him. That was intentional and strategic because I was purposely building muscle and training. So on my in body scans before I got pregnant at the gym, I did this. You could see the muscle was going up and the fat mass was still going down. Even though I was gaining weight, but like my body fat percentage was very low at the time. I can tell you, being where I am now, nowhere near that, even though the scale is going down because I haven't been able to work out like I was. And that is something I wanted to speak to specifically in this episode is if you are postpartum and trying to lose weight, give yourself a hell of a lot of grace. It is so hard to keep a little tiny human alive, happy, and fed when you're not sleeping, when you can't possibly put yourself first. I used to say, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I kind of want to go back and slap that version of me who used to say that to my clients because you can and you do. It's not comfortable. It sucks. But even when you have nothing left to give for the day, if your baby is up in the middle of the night, you have no choice but to get up. You have no choice but to rearrange your own schedule. And I used to be pretty routine with getting up, having my coffee, doing my morning journaling routine, meditating, going to the gym. That has been out the window since I got pregnant because I also couldn't do that while I was pregnant. So, this experience of entering motherhood has really pushed me to release control of things and realize I cannot control the outcomes. All I can do is do the best I can every day. And this is really where it's like progress, not perfection. I'm not making it to the gym like I was. I go, but I'll be consistent for a week or two, and then he gets an ear infection, or then he has a sleep regression, or it's always something. Well, if I let the all or nothing mentality get to me in this last year, I don't think I'd be nearly as far into like losing the weight as I have been. I am also on a GLP-1 and I started that back in August of last year. I started it. I didn't start it right away. I started it. I want to say I was like 2 months postpartum, and I went back on it, which admittedly has been hugely helpful. You guys know I'm a huge fan of GLP-1s because they are very helpful, and I do think that also helped give me the brain space I needed to not hyperfixate on it all. But when I tell you this year has been chaos, it has. And the mom burnout is real. I never really understood that before, but like the mental load that moms carry is unreal. To and I'm sure some dads do this, and there's other, parents who everyone has their own responsibilities, but the vast majority tend to be the moms that are the default parent, that are the ones who manage all the things. Make sure we get to the doctor's appointments, make sure we pack the lunches for school, make sure we keep them on their routine, make sure that they take their antibiotic when they have an ear infection, all while making sure we have groceries and bills are paid and that you're working. And I could have a whole separate episode on this alone, but I talked to a lot of my friends about it. I have a group chat with like 3 of my girlfriends who all had babies around the same time. And society has not set up moms, especially working moms, for success. You are just like damned if you do, damned if you don't all the time. And I could get on like a real tangent about this, but like we were never supposed to do it all. Never. And the fact that we are expected to do it all is really hard because taking care of a baby is a full-time job. Running my business is a full-time job. A lot of people are surprised to learn that I'm not a one-woman show, and I'm very proud of my team. There's many women on the back end of my team who work for me like full-time. Like I built like a really sustainable, beautiful business, and I'm so grateful I did that when I did that. But that takes a lot to run. I don't just pop on Instagram here and there. Like we have systems and schedules and meetings, and I see clients and people invest a lot to work with me. So I need to show up and be there and be present for them and still show up and be present for my son, and trying to do it all is just really hard. So if you're listening to this and the thing that has been hard for me is feeling like I can't show up fully 100% in any area of my life. It's like I'm half into everything. And that makes you feel like you're failing as a mom. It makes you feel like you're failing as at your work. It makes you feel like you're failing as a wife, which isn't true. And we know like logically that's not true, but it's really hard to not feel that way. And the mom guilt, oh my God, the mom guilt. So real. It's like everything makes you feel guilty. And I didn't think I'd feel that way, but I do. So now Oliver is 16 months. He is walking. He is talking a lot. He now says no. I'll ask him like, Oliver, you want to do this? Nah. Eh. Or you say, Oliver, do you want to go here? Do you want to eat? Yes. Yes. His little baby voice is just the cutest thing. But I will say, from someone who I really thought I was going to be childless. And honestly, I could have gone the rest of my life being happy being childless. I genuinely could have. But I like having him in my life has changed me fully. Like if you knew me a couple of years ago, you just don't know me now. Like I truly feel like a different person, and I'm so grateful because I didn't know it could be this good. I feel like everyone talks about motherhood in such a negative light because it is hard. Like you are burnt out. It is a lot to carry, but I wish more people talked about the positives. Like nothing's worse than when you're pregnant and people are like, well, just you wait. Like here I was on my deathbed puking all the time, feeling awful. And people be like, well, just you wait till the baby's here. Then you're really not going to get to rest. It's like, shut up. When the truth is like, again, I've had a great postpartum, and if you're listening to this and you're pregnant, like just wait till you see that little face. Just wait till you experience a love like you could never even describe in words. Just wait until you love something so much that you would literally lay down in the middle of the road and in front of a speeding truck and die for that thing if needed. It's unworldly. Like there's no other way to describe it. And it's funny because I also really thought Oliver was going to be a girl. I absolutely did have gender disappointment, which is another taboo thing people don't talk about because God forbid you say that. But I thought I was going to be a girl mom, right? I've learned I probably can't trust my intuition as much as I thought I could because when people are like, well, what if it's a boy? I'm like, no, but it's not a boy. You don't understand. Like, I know it's a girl. I have a feeling. That feeling was wrong. I definitely had the gender disappointment, but thank goodness the universe knew better than I did because I definitely was meant to be a boy mom. This little boy is exactly what I needed, and I feel like I was meant to be his mom. And it is now my life's biggest purpose is to be a good mom for him, to be a good example for him. So we do the things, we do the hard things, we show up each day, try and stick to my mental health routine and doing better for me so that I can do better for him. So that is, I think, as a whole, my mom journey. If there's other things you want to know about it, feel free to, you can shoot us an email, support@thesleepdietitian.com. I'm sure the mom stuff is going to continue to come up in conversations throughout this podcast. And it's been just a really important part of my journey. So anyways, that's all the caffeinated conversations I have on that for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you want more, make sure you subscribe to the Patreon. It is $10 per month and you get bonus episodes, bonus content. Also below in the show notes, we have links to all of my resources. I have free resources there if you're struggling with nutrition or weight. I also have my paid resources, including my tribe membership, which is the most ultimate support system if you are struggling on this journey, if you are self-sabotaging, if you are stuck in all or nothing thinking. That is what that is there for. We also have the links to all of our sponsors for the podcast below. Make sure you check out Hungry Root, First Form, and find a bariatric therapist. Thank you to our sponsors. And until next time, I'll see you soon.